Now all the onions over there on the camper were pulled. Anything that was leaning over was pulled. Everything was standing up. Now we've had numerous storms over the last few weeks. We've had a dog who likes to continually run through here. But you don't know whether these got knocked over by all the winds of the 2 storms this week since I pulled all of them, because when I pulled them, all these were standing straight up. So now we're going to pull all these hopefully today. You'll notice that my wife had gotten all the weeds out here pristine probably what, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. Look at it. I told you this was a bad place for weeds. And then I pulled like 90% of the onions from weeds from right here all up through there. And look at that. That's probably 2.5, 3 weeks ago. Unbelievable amount of weeds. The larger of my onions are in the ground. And most of them are standing up or leaning over like they blew over in the winds, because they're not bent 90 degrees, you know, where they would mash off like that one's bent. So anyway, we'll get these up, get all the weeds out, put down compost, and turn it in with some lime and fertilizer and try to get the first 10, 11 feet of corn in here. We're off on my wife's on vacation, so we'll be down here the Sunday week. Well, here are all my onions from the first picking. I just sort of sized them, put them in these little boxes. Here's the larger ones. This is a little bit smaller than we would normally get. Maybe that size, but a little bit bigger than that. I think some still in the garden of that size. If you took the reason you have to dry these, if you take the onion and pull them out the ground and cut the stems off, they will bleed. You can see where this one bled a little bit on the onion. Clear fluid runs out of it. And since these had gotten wet, the stems were weak. That's why they're short. They should be about 1 inch. You know, like that would be about as small as you make them. And see, that one will dry over and this will dry up and shrivel up, and I've cut the roots off the bottom, and they'll cure now that you dry them. And the way I cut the tops off is I just lay the onion right there, trying to do this one-handed, and it's really easy to do because the leaves would be extended this way. Maybe I can find one that'll lay there. But you just lay it like that, and I take an X-Acto knife and I just cut it off. You can see how many cuts I made yesterday. And then I spin it upside down and I take my X-Acto knife and cut the roots off the bottom. It's just quicker. And see, that'll seal over. All the tops will seal over. But if these had not gotten wet, that would be more dense. They'll still harden up and all, but these probably won't keep as long as if they'd been cured properly and not rained on. And the other secret to make these last a long time is you take and pull these outer leaves off till you have a white onion. And then you have a perfect onion with no imperfections in it. This could have little nicks or scratches or cuts in it, bruised places. But you would just pull this outer layer off and end up with that white onion. And then you let that dry. And if you want to know how long, you let it dry and cure until that white turns the color of this onion. And then it's sealed up. This will be dried, that's dried, and the onion itself is brown. It will look brown, but it'll look perfect. And you just have to pull these off. And I'm not worried about these that much because we're going to have to use these first and or give them away. But now they just need to air dry. They just need some circulation. That's why this box is not full to the top. And these, I will just go into the box and move them around just to make sure the ones on the bottom get up into the air. And I'd lay them on this thing, but on top of this camper they have a tendency of rolling off. But now we're going to pull all the rest of them. So I'm going to put these somewhere else because I'm going to put the rest of them when we pull them up here. Yeah, we're trying to get out here and pull the onions up before it gets too hot, both for us and the onions. I'll start at the other end since this end is in the shade. And the best way that I've found for me to do it is we have this wheelbarrow, and it has dual wheels on the front. I imagine a single wheelbarrow would work, but the angle on that is just about perfect. And I put that big old Rubbermaid type tub there, and I go over here and pull up 6, 8, or 10 and lay the onion bulb down in the bottom and the leaves up here, and then I just keep putting them in until they're all in this container. And I'll push the container over there to my camper, and I will lay them separated on the cardboard. And it probably won't take 10 minutes to pull them. I'm also going to pull most of the leeks. Another little tip, there's 3 onions sitting side by side. And the reason that one's smaller is see how deep it was planted? See these? See where the soil line is? See where the soil line is on that? That's why that one's smaller than that one. And that one. You can't plant them too deep when you plant transplants. Well, you might say that's a mess of onions. And some of them not too bad a size. That's about what we get. Might be a couple bigger than that. But that was just what was in the cardboard box, folks. We still got that all the way. Back in a while. Well, here's all the onions from pulling today. We had 151 that are no longer on this camper. And this row right here is 106. This is 94, excuse me. That bunch there is 65. I've got it written down on this cardboard. And behind this air conditioning unit on this camper is 34 for a grand total of 299 pulled today. We had 151 already done. That's 450 onions for $20 and change. Plus we picked, I don't know, 15 leeks today, and we've used I think 5 or 6. So that's not too bad at all. They're not all big. There's a bunch of little ones. We have some weak places on it. But there's enough in here that make it worth growing. I mean, don't get them that big in the store usually. And if I just sold the big ones off of this, I could pay for my garden for the whole year. Might have to do it. We can't freeze and eat 450 onions, even if some of them are small. Well, that's a little number total I have of the 4 different rows, and the ones we picked before, 450, and we also pulled 21 that had gone to seed, and I already used most of those, so that's 471 onions for $20 and change, a little bit of time. And these are some of the ones that we'd already dried out last week and cut the tops off. And if you trim that onion root ball off pretty square, they'll sit upright. And see, this is, they're not touching each other. And they can dry all the way around.